Good evening, everyone. Once again, welcome to an interactive webinar on child online safety. We are once again excited to have you here. Dumelang, molweni sanbonani le amogelegile. Re itumella go nna le lena fa. We are excited to have you here. This is an interactive webinar. We'll be using tools such as Mentimeter, breakout rooms, and many other tools to ensure that we keep this webinar as interactive as possible. Please, if you have any other questions during the webinar, you can share the questions on the chat. We will be more than happy to assist with clarifying any of the questions that you might have. You are once again welcome. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague, journalist Drachnel, to take you through the overview of the initiative and the webinar outline. Over to you, Janelle.
Hi, everyone. We are so excited to be here with you. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy day. This is a project we're really passionate about, focusing on child online safety. So at Tales of Turning, we use social media listening tools to analyze the conversations on public social media. So this is a way of working with big data. It scrapes the conversations from public social media, and it's in near real time. So we get really fascinating insights around child online safety. You can see what people are saying, how they're saying it, how they're grappling with issues, the problems that people are facing. It's a way of really deeply listening to people. We work with all the different South African languages, and then we can also see the colloquial language that people are using. It shows us how the conversation is changing over time, what causes spikes in the conversation, and we can also see geographical hotspots. So it's really, it provides a lot of really interesting information. For this initiative, we have started with an observations report in preparation for the full-scale social media listening research that we are still fundraising to do. So in that observations report, we've had a team online on social media, dialoguing around child online safety, going onto gaming platforms, on Discord, TikTok, and really understanding the conversation and noting down what they see. So it really gives us an in-depth understanding of child online safety. And while we're doing that, we're also collecting keywords, which I'll go into a little bit later. So we're preparing for this full-scale social media listening research and also getting really useful insights, which we'll share with you a bit later. These insights, they are really interesting, and we use them to create social media content around child online safety with children. So we use these issues and insights to make social media content that people can share to spark dialogue around child online safety and spark reflection and get people talking about this. And then we also use the insights for our interventions. So I'm really happy to share more about our digital school clubs. So all the research feeds into these digital school clubs, and they are designed to provide peer support systems in schools for children. So there's a lot of research that shows that children are a lot less likely to disclose when something happens to them online. They're much less likely to disclose it to an adult, so to a teacher or a parent, because they're really worried about the consequences, maybe having their device taken away or other consequences they might face. But they're a lot more likely to share with their peers. So that's why we're setting up these digital school clubs. So children can have these conversations in school with other children. Obviously, there are a teacher at the head of the digital school club, so issues can be escalated to adults. So you can imagine at a school, if a little girl is talking to a little boy online, she's quite unlikely to tell a teacher or her parent that she's talking to this little boy online, but she is very likely to say to a friend, oh, look, I'm talking to this little boy. And then the friend could say, are you sure it's a little boy? Or I've heard that this has happened, or really engage in that conversation. And then obviously, if there is something urgent, they could escalate it to the teacher that's the head of the clubs. So for these digital school clubs, we're running workshops at school. And what's really exciting is that we're taking a narrative therapy approach. So we view children as the experts of their own lives. They know their problems best and their solutions best. And we are co-creating this digital school club with the children through them sharing their knowledge. And we're very lucky to have Michelle Knight doing visual scribing during the workshops. So we are documenting the children's knowledge in writing, and she's documenting the children's knowledge in images. So you can see at the bottom of the screen the images she's created from the first workshops that we've done, collecting the children's knowledge and then giving it back to them in an image. And you can see on the right is still blank, because we will continue to build on this as we run the workshops and go on this journey with the children. This is one of the parts I really love around narrative therapy, is that we see people as having this expert knowledge, and then they share it with other people that are facing the same problems. And this is really, firstly, it's very empowering. And secondly, it leads to really great richness in the information. So there is a video. Unfortunately, Michelle couldn't join us today, but there is a video just her describing this image and what the children shared. So we're going to share that in a resource pack. You'll get it in an email after the webinar. At the start of the workshops, obviously we're going into schools, and we're in a society where adults are seen as the experts. So we really start at the beginning, establishing this dynamic where the children are leading, are sharing their knowledge. So we put a lot of effort into that by, reshaping the classroom, putting the chairs in a different way. And then we start off by sharing and really doing different activities about this different way of learning. So we learn through sharing our experiences, through reflecting on these experiences, getting insight, taking action, which leads to more experiences. So we're in this reflective process together, and we do activities so that this really becomes real for the children, that they have the knowledge that they are sharing. And then in the school clubs, we are going through this idea of the power of storytelling. And then we look at understanding social media and its impact. So no one likes to be told what to do, and particularly children don't like to be told what to do, and that's not always effective. So we start off by asking them, how does social media impact their lives? What do they see as the benefits? What do they see as the harms? And then we also add, obviously, we weave more information on after that, but it's really a way of getting children themselves to reflect. From this, we look at what knowledge do they want to share with other children. So this is a very empowering process that, as I mentioned, we're doing through the visual scribing, through documenting their knowledge in writing, and then also through co-creating social media content with the children. So they help design messages for other children that we can share on social media, and also messages for parents. Then we do this beautiful process of what is your hope? How do you want it to be? How do you think children should be engaging with social media in school and at home? So really, it's based on hope-based narratives. So it's looking at what is the problem, how do we envision it, and how do we co-create this new vision, and then what are the action steps for getting there. So we do this all in process with the children. Then we look at dialogue skills. So it's a peer support mechanism. So the children need to have these abilities to have conversations with other children in the school. And again, we go to that every person and every child has innate dialogue skills within them. So even a little child, if someone has taken their toy, or older children, they might have had something that they said to them, and they've had to have a conversation with their friends. So we first start by building their confidence, by they have knowledge of how to dialogue, sharing that in the room. And then, of course, we build dialogue skills. Looking at dialogue takes listening skills. It takes making the other person feel heard and understood, and then asking curious questions to get them to reflect. Another part of the program is also looking at why do people bully. So we work a lot with intergenerational trauma and really getting people to understand the different reasons behind bullying. And again, in all of this, there is a teacher in charge to escalate and to have these conversations and support with. And as you can see, this is a merging process. So we we have an outline of what we're doing and the skills we want to impart and the things we want to cover, but we're really going on a journey with the children, and it's very specific to their school environment and what's emerging for them. So I'm very happy to be handing over to my colleague Andy Siwe, and Andy Siwe and Sipiwe are going to be talking about the observations report. These insights have been used in creating the social media content and are woven into the digital school clubs. They are also shared widely so that other organizations can use these insights. And as I mentioned, it provides a framework for when we have funding to do the full-scale social media listening research into child online safety. Over to you, Andy Siwe.
Thank you, Jenny. Good afternoon, everyone. When we think of child online safety on online platforms, it's often associated with predatory behavior on social networks. And I think the introduction of AI and platforms catered to children has exacerbated this. And I think the time that we have spent at Tales of Telling, learning kids' algorithms, and the role that it plays and the rise of gaming platforms has been really, really, really insightful. And I think the thing with kids' algorithms is that I think that these apps are catered to children. And because of that, they are going to have the kids' health and safety in mind. And in most times, they don't, because content that promotes self-harm or low self-esteem and even destructive behavior is able to see through kids interact with this content. And I think an example of this is YouTube Kids, where kids are interacting with content that's sexualized or even destructive. But parents aren't privy of this because this platform is catered to children. And I think another key takeaway to the algorithm issue is that harm to children is advertised in different ways and gendered. The ways is often a matter of bravery and challenges, and girls, it's in the form of evidence. And I think with the role of AI, also seeing the manipulation in cartoons, where it looks like kids are watching innocent cartoons. And for example, something like Ballerina Cappuccino, which is promoting fast life culture, materialism, and hypersexualization. But because it's in the front of cartoons, most people aren't privy to the messages that children are being exposed to. And they've also done this with cartoons like Spider-Man, which has, and we've seen a lot of like graphic material being introduced into Spider-Man cartoons, and even toxic portrayals of gender. And I think with the widespread gaming platforms like Discord and Roblox, and how easy access it is, it's now been as like a fighting ground for predators, because basically the limitations on what can happen on this platform, and there's so many plays and it's really supervised. And I think the most harmful part of this Discord is the servers. And I often compare it to what we had back in the day, which is Mixit. And it's like this big chance where anyone with the link can join. And that's exactly what's happening on Discord. Anyone can join and they have access to these kids. And in some servers, it's even preventing self-harm behavior, where kids are they have to do self-harm tasks, whether it's unfortunately cutting themselves. And this has even led to suicide in some cases. And I think another harmful part of these servers is that there was one way it was like sextortion, where to enter one of these servers, kids would have to send pictures of their nude, and these would later be used to sextorting later on. And I think the more research we do is on insights we're getting on social media, it's very important in understanding how child online safety is impacted by the advances of technology. And I'm gonna hand over to Skiwa.
Thank you, Anjisiwe. Hello, everyone. I'm going to be speaking on a couple of more insights that we found particularly interesting during our child online safety research, one of which is sharenting, which refers to when parents share content of their children online. So it could be pictures, videos, and also images of their children online. So, for example, they could share a video of their child in their school uniform going to school. They could share a day in their life of their child, showing the routine that they go through, showing the time that they go to school, what they do after school, what they do in their extracurricular activities, the kinds of nicknames that they call their children. And in this way, sorry, could you ask them? Sorry about that background noise. As I was saying, as parents share the kinds of routines that their children go through, as well as personal information that is privy only to them, it provides predators with a blueprint that they can use to then target that child. And using that information, they're able to sort of have a rapport with the child and then subsequently be able to build a relationship and later on abuse these children. So it just showed that caregivers or parents really have to take the extra mile in ensuring that they are not sharing personal information that could subsequently be used by these predators to target their children. And then another phenomenon or insight that we got is that we realized that a lot of cases of online grooming had been springing up, and that these predators actually are willing to go the extra mile in the activities that they do. So we saw a case of a South African man who actually groomed a 13-year-old child and was going to fly to Ireland to meet her. And these are not isolated cases because we see it in a lot of instances. And one particular one had to do with an instance where a 17-year-old was assaulted after being lured through an online dating site. And the comments actually showed that the victim or the young girl is the one who was being blamed in this instance as compared to the predator being held accountable. But this showed that there's a bit of less understanding when it comes to what grooming actually is, because when it comes to maybe 15, 16, 17-year-olds, they are placed with the blame of being responsible for themselves. But groomers are very sophisticated in the way that they target and communicate with these children. So, for example, they target vulnerable individuals. They make them feel like they're not being understood, like they're the only ones who understand them, like they're the only ones who support them. And this in turn makes them vulnerable to manipulation that allows the abuse and grooming to take place. And at times we imagine maybe a very old man and a young minor, but it could be a 35-year-old, a 30-year-old, maybe with a 13 or 14-year-old minor. And they use phrases like, oh, I'm here for you, you're mature for your age, you're not like other children. And then this allows them to further manipulate and convince these minors. So there's a need to share more information on what actually happens in grooming, how it happens, and also what minors and society have to look out for in terms of the people that they're interacting with online in order to keep themselves safe from these individuals. And then lastly, one of the other interesting concepts was the one of minor attracted persons or MAPS. And this is basically individuals who describe themselves or identify themselves as being attracted to minors. And we saw a very large debate around this on TikTok and Twitter, where it was being debated whether this should be viewed as a mental health condition, or is this a term that's being used to sanitize and normalize predatory behavior. And in some instances, we see individuals actually putting it on their profiles in the Discord spaces and social media spaces. And it's deeply problematic because changing language actually can change perception. And then normalizing these terms may make it seem like it's okay. It can reduce public outrage and vigilance, and it also creates loopholes for actual predators to also come and exploit children under this guise of being a minor attracted person. However, we did see a lot of resistance to the concept, with many parents calling it out, saying that it should be called what it is, which is pedophilia. And we just saw that actually the concept of the abuse of children online and the kind of tactics that predators are using are becoming more sophisticated. So there's a need for our interventions to also evolve and adapt and ensure that we are providing children with the tools to kind of spot these behaviors and therefore protect themselves, and for us to also spot how predators are actually using these different platforms in order to have interventions that are going to ensure the safety of children online. Thank you very much. I'll hand it over to Jenna Lee to take us through the next section.
Thanks so much, Sipiwe and Andisiwe. It's always so interesting listening to both of you. So while we were doing the observations report, you can see there's really interesting things that we noticed online. We were also collecting keywords, and this is, as I said, in preparation for the social media listening research. I think Sipiwe made a really important point, how the social media and technology landscape is constantly shifting. So when you have the social media listening tools up and running, you can see how it's shifting. You can get real-time insights into what's happening right now. So it's really important to have that, to share with the whole sector, everyone that's working with children, and also to shape the digital school clubs and interventions. So while we were doing the observations, we were also collecting keywords, and we are going to ask you to help think of keywords and input into Mentimeter, which Siabata will explain. So keywords are words, phrases, or hashtags that can be used to search for specific topics. So if you put this word or phrase into social media, it will bring up all the conversation related to that phrase. How we use it is we put it all together, all the keywords together into the social media listening tools, and it pulls up all the data related to the topic. And then we do a thematic analysis on that data. So here are some examples of keywords related to child online safety. So we work in all the South African languages, and we also look at colloquial terms and slang. So if you put child online safety in, you will get a lot of conversations from other nonprofits and academics, which is interesting, but we want to go a step further and look at the conversations underneath that. So we use a lot of slang terms like sharenting, hate raids, which are attacks on gaming platforms. So we really need to be thinking of what are these slang terms, what have we heard children using. So if you can just give it some thought, we like our research to be as useful to as many people as possible. So it's always good to get ideas from as many different organizations and individuals. So just give it some thought, and Siabata is going to explain how any keyword you think of can be inputted now into Mentimeter so we can take a look at it. Over to you, Siabata.
Thank you, Jenna Lee. So in our now first activity, we are would have to on your side with your
we're struggling to hear you, Siabata. Let's go over to Linda, if you can get the Mentimeter up, please, or Siabata, and I'll just explain how it can be used. So you will see the Mentimeter up on your screen in a moment, where we can input keywords. Siabata, maybe try with your video off.
Okay, is it now much better?
Yes, it's now much better. You can go ahead
Perfect.
and explain it.
Perfect. This is our first activity. We will be using the tool that I alluded to earlier. We'll be using Mentimeter for the activity. So what you have to do is to take your device and then search menti.com, and then after you've searched menti.com, it will take you to Mentimeter. You will see that there is a code above the question that's on the screen. You enter that code, and then you will respond to the question that shows on the screen. Share any child online safety keyword you know. So you search menti.com. The link is also on the chat. It will take you to a screen where it requires a code. You enter the code, the 6-digit code that appears at the top of the screen. It will take you to the question, and then please share some of the keywords that you think are related to child online safety and will lead us to conversations around child online safety on online platforms. As you can see on the screen, the code is 233173.
Also, if you just click on the link in the chat, you'll be able to go straight into it and enter any words related to child online safety that you can think of. So, see, we've got digital literacy, we've got hate raid, cyberbullying. We're just going to give another few minutes for everyone just to enter some of the keywords, any phrases, can also be in different languages. Revenge porn, that's come up a lot in the online conversation. We also did social media listening research into gender norms among youth in the Western Cape, and that was revenge porn was a huge theme in that. And you can see in the keywords that people are sharing, you can see both more academic terms, and then you can also see more colloquial terms and slang that people are sharing. And it's really important to have both.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, everyone, for adding. We've collected around over 100 keywords that we will be using, or when we do the social media listening research, we are going to add these. And you're welcome to email us if you think of any more after this. We would love to continue the conversation and hear from you. So I'm now going to hand over to Siabata, who's going to take us into the explanation of the messaging and the next activity that we're going to do together in breakout rooms.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you for sharing those keywords. I think they will lead us to very insightful conversations, unfiltered conversations on online platforms around child online safety. So we are now going to, in this section of the webinar, we are going to look at creating digital content. Our team of digital dialogue facilitators created unbranded colloquial content that is in different South African languages, that is relatable to children, and with messaging that is created using the narrative therapy approach, whereby children are not directed as to what to do online, what not to do online, but whereby children are asked questions that lead them to engage on conversations around what's going on online platforms, how they would prefer the space to be made safer for them, and how safe they feel on online platforms. As you can see, the designs are in different South African languages. The first one is in isiZulu, which is a South African language, and the designs are also just portray positive messaging. They encourage children to engage with the designs so that we can get their unfiltered thoughts of the online space and how they would like to be made safe for them. So into the next slide, you will see we will have a short breakout room activity whereby we will be taken into different breakout rooms. Linda, you can move to the next slide, please. Whereby we will be taken to different breakout room activities, and we will be brainstorming messaging that we think could be used in these designs that are created using the narrative therapy approach, whereby children are not given directives but are rather invited to a conversation around online safety, child online safety. So Linda will take us into our different breakout rooms for the next 15 minutes. We'll have discussions around the messaging of designs, and then after the 15 minutes, we will come back to the main group to share what we shared on our breakout rooms. Each breakout room will have a facilitator that will help support the conversation and ensure that the conversation flows well. So Linda will take us to those breakout rooms shortly.
Thank you so much, Siabata. So, hello everyone. You receive an invitation to join a breakout room automatically if your Zoom is set to that. However, if you don't receive the invitation, just click on the Zoom the Zoom panel on your screen, and then you see breakout room, and then you log into one of the rooms that are available. If you have any issues, to kindly reach out, just raise up your hand and just open up, and I will take you through the process. So the breakout rooms are open now, and people will join soon. So you'll be automatically directed or invited into the breakout rooms. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. So there's a pop-up in your screen. You just click join. It will take you to your breakout room. We are now going to give facilitators of different breakout rooms an opportunity to share what was shared in their different breakout rooms. I hope what was shared is very insightful. So we're just gonna quickly give it a minute and then start with the sharing once everyone is back in a minute, because I can see people are still rejoining us. Great. I think everyone is now back. We are now going to give the first group an opportunity to share the ideas that were shared in their breakout room. I think the first group was facilitated by Gabriel. Over to you, Gabriel.
Okay. Thank you very much. So for group one, in our brainstorming session, we came up with various considerations that should be made in terms of the messaging for child online safety. And one of the things that came up was around parental guidance. So if we're able to push messages, we're able to push conversations around parents being able to teach, mentor, and guide their children on how to use online presence appropriately, and more specifically being able to monitor them to know the platforms that they are using frequently, and then the kind of content they consume. So able to push conversation around that space will help a lot in terms of child online safety. We also spoke about the fact that these messages should be clear, well understood, friendly, and polite, because in our communication, we should ensure that the messaging we are putting out there is very clear, it's very polite, because it's content that would be consumed by others. So if we are ensuring that the content is being polite, then that would really help a lot. And more specifically, we're looking at content for children. So if you are creating messaging content for children, we would want to ensure that the content make use of friendly pictorials, visuals, or animations, because as a child, these are some of the contents they can relate to once they see maybe an animation, like a picture that really preaches the message, then they are better able to consume that. Also, a question came up whether do we need different, let me say, messaging for boys and girls? So that was one of the interesting questions that also came up from the group. But then we also had a bit more of, let me say, contributions around ensuring that the message is timely and feeds into the current trend, because if we're able to know what is happening, we are able to push out messages that feed into those current trend, whilst considering confidentiality would go a long way to ensuring that the people actually accept the message, because it's more localized to them and it's able to make waves and be accepted. So these were some of the discussions that came up.
Thank you for sharing that. We are now going to move to the second group, which was facilitated by Tabile.
Thank you so much. So from our discussion, we had awareness messages around child online safety, where the group members suggested that the focus should not be only on children, but also parents, where we say children are online, are we guiding them? Basically from 3-year-olds to 18-year-olds, where they watch YouTube, CoComelon, children do need guidance. And also we came up with teaching them the cyberbullying steps, where they report, block, and delete if they suspect any cyberbullying. And another point is that the messaging will be around digital literacy is not for children, but for parents too. So where parents know how to keep their children safe online and offline. Also, we mentioned that the internet does not forget, which speaks to the digital footprint. So basically what you post on the internet stays on the internet forever, even if you delete. Another thing that we did discuss was that screens don't babysit, parents do. So also this messaging is for parents as well, to say that they mustn't just give their children or their kids the screens. They must also monitor what is happening with their children's screens and try to download or to use apps that are actually child friendly. Another one we had was strangers cannot love you more than your parents. This is just giving messaging. This messaging is towards children to say that the strangers cannot love them more than their parents. Oversharing online is oversharing with two strangers.
Thanks so much, Tabile. I think there's a lot of interesting insights. I think for the sake of time, let's move on to the next group. And if you can just share the highlights in a minute,
Yes.
That would be great. Over to you, Siobata.
Okay. Thank you.
The next group, thank you, Tabile. The next group was facilitated by Thobeka.
Hi, thank you, Siobata. So we will be represented by Jennifer.
Thanks, Jennifer. If you can share just the highlights in a minute, that would be great.
Okay, so it kind of resonates a lot with what has already been said around messaging being friendly and accessible by the various audience members, so parents and children, that there needs to be a discussion around, on a broader level, around like consent and about like feeling like you may or may not be doing something bad because that kids don't want to tell parents or adults that something untoward has happened because they're afraid of being punished, and there needs to be, or of being told, well, you asked for it. So there needs to be a discussion around that, and also helping children to feel comfortable. So that idea of like that we love them, whatever, and that they're not necessarily going to be in trouble for telling us. It's about opening up communication. Okay.
Thank you, Jennifer. From the fourth group, we'll just be sharing the highlights in a minute. Over to you, Angau.
Hi, everyone. So for group 4, we discussed a few things, and one of them was understanding the children's language, because these days children have a code language they have that adults are not actually understanding. So we are saying they put a keen interest on that. And then the second one was knowing the platforms the children use, because children are engaging heavily with TikTok, cartoons, and other interactive online spaces, of which if adults understand these spaces, they would know what content children see and what risks they might face. The other one was recognizing the content children engage on in line. We emphasize learning the trends, challenges, games, and online activities children participate in, of which this helps caregivers guide them better and spot red flags early. The last one was setting clear rules and boundaries, of which adults should establish simple, clear guidelines for safe internet use. That was basically it from our team. Thank you.
Thank you, Angau. And the last team facilitated by Simam.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'll just go over our feedback as quickly as possible. So in our group, we spent quite a bit of time discussing context, specifically what children see online and the harmful content they're exposed to daily. And I really appreciated that some of the group members work directly with child-centered organization, parents and homes. And The one thing that one colleague shared about the messaging that they would push online was around critical thinking messaging, because this is exactly what children and teens lack when scrolling online, just to teach kids to question what they see, recognize manipulation, and understand online risks. So yeah, this is pretty much it. Thanks, Tabata.
Thank I think really insightful ideas from all the groups. I'm now just going to Jenna Lee to also conclude the webinar. Over to you, Jenna.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for sharing for these rich discussions. And there was limited time, but the facilitators have made notes of everything you shared. And we are also going to send out a form after this that you can submit more ideas for messaging. So what we've done is we've taken insights from the observations report and made a set of messaging. We are now going to take your ideas and make it into messaging. And we're also co-creating designs with the children themselves. And we will be sharing all of this with you so that you can use it on your social media platforms. We've already had other organizations that are using the designs from the observations reports. So it's really to share this messaging back with you and to co-create it between ourselves. All of you have such rich knowledge from working with children, and then knowledge from children themselves. And this, weaving all of this together, becomes quite powerful. All the content is unbranded, and so you can use it to spark dialogue on your platforms. And then there's really interesting ideas that have been shared. I just wanted to share one thing it's been mentioned both in the chat and in the messaging of children developing their own language. Because my background is in psychology, I'm very interested in that. And it's a way of creating their own identity separate to adults, and this different way of communicating and kind of separating it. So as soon as adults start catching up with the slang, they're constantly evolving it. And that's why it's evolving faster and faster now with social media, because it's constantly parents are starting to, or adults are starting to use the slang, and then they move away from it. So that's why I'm also really interested in doing the social media listening research, because you can see how that evolves. So just to end off, I want to say that we're going to be sending out a whole resource pack. So we'll be sending previous social media listening research we did into gender norms, so you can see what we want to do in child online safety. That also has some interesting insights around parenting. We'll be sending the observation report, the designs that you can share, and also the visual scribing video that really takes you through that image. We will then also be taking that image and as well as the video and sharing it with write-ups of the children's knowledge. And then to end off, I want to say a huge, huge thank you to the World Childhood Foundation to supporting this work, not only through funding, but also through insights and care, and for really being on the forefront of this innovative work. So we are so grateful for everything that you've contributed. And then also thank you to each and every organization that's here today. We really believe in collaboration. As you know, child online safety it's evolving rapidly. It's a really scary, the effects of it has on children. So it's really going to take all of us. So we would love to stay in conversation with you to get your ideas. Please reach out to us if there's anything else you need. And we're all about collaboration. And then to the Tales of Turning team for all the effort that you've put into this, for always going above and beyond, and for all your care and passion for this work. And so I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to staying in touch and hearing from you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This was lovely.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you very
Linda, you
much.
can
Bye,
push
everyone.
in. Thanks. Bye.